Alright, so today I'm going to be getting the Platinum Trophy for Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven. Now, I actually played this game way back when I was just a little Jojo's fan back in 2016, which at this point is almost 10 years ago, which definitely makes me feel super old. But just for all of you to experience the game along with me, I started up a brand new save file to bring you all along with the experience of this game with me. Aww. In total, we have 46 trophies to achieve, and the part 1 of getting this is to complete the story mode for this game. And through the story mode, this is where you'll naturally get the bulk of the trophies, and also, the story is actually really fun to play along. Now, if you want a full breakdown into the story of this game, you can actually go watch my video here, and if you've already watched that video, don't worry, I'll still explain the general outline of the story, but this video will more so go and take a look into the gameplay aspect of it. Now, Eyes of Heaven is actually, I think, one of the most slept on anime games, and I 100% think that if you are any sort of JoJo's fan, this game is a must play for you, and anyone can really get into it and enjoy it very easily. There's actually so much content in this game, just from like the references to both the anime and the manga to all of the costumes, the poses, and all of the attacks you see. It all makes this game just truly so much fun to play and discover as a JoJo's fan that I'm actually surprised at the state that it's currently in. But despite how great I think this game is, it's a shame that this game never got a physical release for the US version, and you can only buy it digitally, with them charging the full $60 for an almost 10-year-old game. Oh yeah, also the fact that the online mode is actually completely dead for this, like actually dead. You basically won't find anyone playing this online. And not to mention, for this platinum, I will have to be getting 3 trophies for playing online, and let's just say this took a very long time. Now, before I head into the story mode, I decided to hit a quick free play match to relearn the controls and the gameplay of this game. And already, this game doesn't make you unlock any characters, so you start out with the full roster, and they have a pretty decent selection of characters throughout parts 1 to 8, which we'll touch on more throughout this video. And the fighting mechanics in this game are almost the most simple you can make it, which I personally think is both a good thing, but also the downfall of this game. Essentially, you just mash square to do your basic light combo, which chains into a special ability most of the time, and triangle does heavy attacks, which you can incorporate into that light combo. And each character has about 4 special abilities and 2 EX abilities, which are just the more powerful versions of those special abilities. But this isn't like most fighting games, so we have to do some sort of command input to use them. All you do is you hold the right trigger and it brings up this menu, and you just press one button and you get to do a special ability, which makes this game very simple to play. And really, other than that, you can dash to enemies, which can also stun them into a combo, and also you have your normal blocking, and that's really about it. There were somewhat more advanced things like flash cancels and combo breakers, but those are trophies that were explained later on in this video. The only thing that's annoying is after you do a decent amount of damage to the enemy, they'll just fall back and have like 5 seconds of invincibility frames, basically just making you have to reset and killing all potential for any sort of long combos in this game. So it's not the most perfect fighting system, it's very basic and it could be more intuitive, but it's at least fun to watch. And already in this first match, we get several trophies. The first one for getting our first Jojo, which is basically hidden missions you can do with each character that we're later going to have to grind for a future trophy. And I hit my first dual heat attack, which is basically your ultimate attack, with this one being a special pairing between both Jotaro and Kakuri, which I think is awesome that they have these special pairings between certain characters, and it just shows that they truly thought out each character in this game. But for hitting this attack, we not only get a trophy for hitting a combo of 40, but we also get a second trophy for hitting a 60 combo as well. And with finishing the match, we get another trophy for finishing our first free battle, starting us off strong with 4 out of 46 trophies already. Now that I'm all warmed up, we jump into the story mode, and this game actually has a game original story mode that is written almost as an alternate reality of a what if type of JoJo story. And I actually really appreciate that. Unlike other anime games, I'm looking at you, Dragon Ball, that just make you play the same story that you've both watched and read before, this starts at the end of part 3 and it's going to divert off into its own story. You start right at the last fight of part 3 of Jotaro versus Dio, with Dio just going absolutely crazy, where you fight against him on the bridge as Jotaro. One thing you may notice in the gameplay of this is the story mode of this game almost kind of plays as a JRPG, I guess you can say, as you actually have to level up your characters that you play as, and you actually don't start off with all of your abilities like you have in free play mode. You have to unlock them over time using points. Now, here's where the fun of the story begins. After you defeat Dio and you have the famous scene of Jotaro punching him and his body cracking and dying, you are then parting ways with Joseph and Kakyoin at the train station when all of a sudden the GOAT Speedwagon appears, which is already bizarre enough, but also both Iggy and Abdul show up with the weird purple aura around them wanting to fight against you. Both of these being your allies and friends that died along the way in your journey, now just back alive and trying to fight against you. You then run away and you go back to the rooftops of Cairo where you face off against them and you're forced to beat up your former friends, which I gotta say has to be somewhat traumatizing for them, I'm sure. And also, this map that you play on, Cairo rooftops, is easily my most hated map in this game because as you jump from rooftop to rooftop, it not only takes so long to reset if you fall down, almost like if when you run off the track in Mario Kart, but it takes a lot of your health as well, and they love this map in this story mode, and you're gonna play here multiple times, and I just hate it. But after you win, now Kakyoin and Endo both appear, another two characters who had died in this part, who you now have to fight. And one thing about this game as well is different stand powers do play different. Like, obviously, Star Platinum is a very close range stand, so you're gonna be fighting very close up, but they actually make long range stands play as long range. But Endel specifically, you fight him multiple times throughout this, and I hate fighting him. His stand is so annoying to fight. Not that I necessarily hate it, but he just does so much damage and is very hard to hit, and to do any damage to him, you have to actually hit his main body. But the problem is you can't get to his main body because you're too busy fighting off his little rain blob. It's just very annoying. But after you beat them, this is when the true plot of the game starts, as Speedwagon comes holding a part of the Holy Corpse, which, for those of you who haven't read Part 7, I have a few videos you can watch, can kind of catch you up to speed if you do want to watch those, but all you need to know is this is actually the parts of Jesus Christ himself in the Jojo universe. And using this part, he is able to heal Kakyoin, bringing him back to life essentially, and he explains that he is here to look for and gather all of the remaining 8 parts of this corpse in order to stop these strange anomalies of people coming back to life and attacking them. Seeing your friend back alive, you decide to trust him and help him in his journey, and you get another part of the corpse, and before we head into the portal taking us to the next part, we get a trophy for completing part 1 of the story. For the remainder of the story, we're going to essentially be time traveling throughout each of the 8 parts of Jojo's to gain each of the corpse parts to reanimate this corpse to be able to use its powers to stop these anomalies. So we head into the portal, taking us now to part 4. Okay, I'm joking. I got the messages last time. Listen, there's a lot of parts in Jojo's. Sometimes I get confused, but we go to part 5 of Jojo, Vento Ario next. Throughout this part, it's going to be very similar to what we just had in the first part of the story, to where you go into this part and some of your old friends or some of the friends who just mysteriously disappeared now reappear and they are possessed, and you have to fight against them as well as other villains throughout the stories who try and take you down. However, it's during this part that we also start to get the mentioning of someone called the Noble One, who is apparently behind all of these mysterious happenings and who had all these bad guys pledging their allegiance to. Before you head into each part, you will also get to run around the map in each location where you can replay battles, and also sometimes there'll be secret missions which we'll need to beat for a later trophy. But right now I was actually just trying to blaze through the story so I can put out that previous video that I posted, and that's something that's gonna haunt me later, as I'm gonna have to go back into each part and complete this later. But anyway, it's also during this moment that I finally realized that my PS5 controller has now succumbed to stick drift. So $80 for a new controller later, and we're back on the road. We also meet a turtle which has a stand, which is gonna be kind of this thing that's gonna travel with us throughout all the parts, and as we turn people back from being possessed, they'll all basically get stored in this turtle, so as we teleport around, all of the characters we gather along the journey can be along with us. Just kind of a way for them to get around that. We unfortunately never get to see what it's actually like in this turtle, but I just imagine like maybe a bunch of Jojos hanging out, watching TV, maybe a fridge with some drinks, and maybe like a Lisa body pillow somewhere. Or wait, that just kind of looks like my room. Anyways, we collect another corpse part, heading on to the next part and also getting a trophy for finishing up the second part of this story. We then head on to the actual part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, which, fun fact, is actually my favorite Jojo part. And here a few things happen. As we go through our first fights, we get a trophy for having activated style actions 25 times, which is just unique special abilities each character has, as well as another trophy for having finished off 5 enemies with a dual heat attack. And I got yet another trophy in the same match for having activated 10 EX skills. And finishing off this match, I got yet another trophy for having completed our first dramatic finish, which certain maps have certain finishes that are references to the anime, and it's pretty cool, but I do wish there was more of these. You also fight against Shikechi, which introduces his harvest stand into the story worlds as you run around, which you'll later have to collect for a trophy. Other than that, as far as the story, the only other big revelation we get in this part is that we learn that this mysterious noble one is, you guessed it, it's gonna be Dio. And we get yet another corpse part as well as our trophy, and we head on to the next part. We then then head on to part 1 Phantom Blood, where along the way we also get a trophy for completing 10 dual heat attacks, and honestly not too much else happens to the story wise here, so we collect our trophy as we get into the corpse part, heading on to part 2 of Jojo's battle tendency. Now this is where we get to see the series with its bizarre plot have such great moments, such as seeing an older Joseph interacting with the younger Joseph, which as a Jojo's fan is just peak writing. I love it so much. And it goes just about how you think it would, with them both basically gaslighting the Pillar Men into not fighting against them, avoiding a battle. It's just so great to see them interact with each other, and luckily Caesar Salad is still alive, which imagine being older Joseph, just seeing him and knowing what his future fate is. That's almost like when Captain America went back in time knowing all of the tragedies that would happen in America, but doing absolutely nothing to stop it. You know the drill. We get our trophy, we collect our corpse part, and we head on to the next part of Jojo's. Now on to part 6, where we get to see Jolene, and not only do we see Jolene, we see her interacting with Jotaro, which is her dad, but this is her dad from the 1980s when he was only a teenager, which, yeah, time travel can just get very confusing. But Jolene and her dad team up, and I said this in my last video, but I really like the fact that they made Jolene and Jotaro both have a special combined dual heat attack, because it really just shows that they thought about the character pairings in making this game, and it's all just a really cool attack. And during the story, we meet Poochie, who is still just the biggest Dio glazer, but he also does reveal to us that this Noble One type of Dio, his ability is that he can overwrite things, which we'll learn about more once we finally meet him. And after collecting our corpse part, we then head back to Morio Town, which is kind of our main hub at this point to where everyone's gathering, and we see none other than Darby, and we actually have to play against him in a poker match to save Jolene's soul, which he's trying to take. And to be honest, I absolutely suck at poker. To this day, I still don't understand how to play it, but this is Jojo poker, and just like the anime, you can actually cheat in this, which makes it a lot easier to complete, and by doing so, we also collect a trophy for successfully cheating against Darby. And during this part, we also see all of the Jojos we have so far, including Koichi for some reason, but I mean, he's really cool, so I guess he can stay. But anyways, they all meet up in Morio, where we learn that only certain people can go on to the next part, with both Jonathan and Josuke stepping up to continue the search for the last 2 corpse parts. We gain our trophy for completing this part, and as we head into the next part, I stopped going for the trophies in the matches, and I just really tried to speed run the story at this point so I can put out that previous video I made. So we now head into Steel Ball Run as you enter in right at the end of the series, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil you in this video, so you don't have to skip ahead or anything like that. But you enter in right at the end where you see Johnny facing off against Valentine, with you entering in as Jonathan, which I actually think that's a really cool part also as a JoJo fan, to see part 1 meaning part 7, which is the alternate slash parallel slash retelling of part 1, however you want to say it. Just really cool for them to add that in. But not too much story wise happens here other than your Johnny Joestar and Jonathan Joestar paired up, and you get Johnny his corpse part as well as our trophy, and we head on to part 8 where we see Josuke 4 coming in to meet Josuke 8, which I'll just call Gappy to make it easy, which yet again, cool of them to do, to see part 4 meaning part 8, but here also not that much happens in the story other than yet again we gain our corpse part and we get our trophy, and we now assemble all 8 of the main JoJos back in Morio Town, and this is where we finally get to the conclusion of the story. Now from here we go on to the finale where we finally face off against Dio, but this is the World Over Heaven Ascended Dio, and as a somewhat boss battle for this game, it's a decently fun fight. It's your standard battle, but this time Dio can just teleport around freely and even do things such as turn your own teammates against you, since his power is literally to be able to overwrite reality into anything that he wants. So we finish out the story getting 3 more trophies for completing the last 3 parts of the story, which, long story short, you fight Dio, you then have to go back to get the corpse parts again after he steals them from you, and then after gaining them all again, you finally finish him off with the final battle. And the story ultimately ends with you reversing the reality that Dio has overwritten, essentially taking you back to the very beginning in part 3 as if nothing happened, except you get a little teaser that Abdul and Iggy may still be alive. So after getting all of our trophies for completing the story, we also get another trophy for adding all of the JoJo terms to the glossary, which is just a little side piece of content that's not really that important. And now that we've completed all of the story and got our trophies from that, it's time to grind out the rest of the trophies. And honestly, if you're someone that may be going for this platinum as well, the best advice I can give you for this is honestly just to have a lot of fun with the game. There's so much content to unpack in this game, and as a JoJo's fan, it's really fun to just play the game and uncover all of the hidden details that they put into it. So although it's a lot of battles, it didn't really feel that long. Heading into a free play battles, one thing like I mentioned previously is the fighting mechanics in this game are very simple to learn. And one thing that's really good about that is you can just choose any of the characters you want and you can pick them up really easily and just have a lot of fun playing as them. And each character is so unique to play and they truly feel different between each character, with some of my favorite being people like Stroheim, which honestly, just look at what they implemented for him. Yeah, I really don't have to explain that. If you're a Jojo fan, you probably love that. But I also like people like Johnny Joestar and the fact that they actually have you playing as a crippled Johnny Joestar that rides around on his horse. And there's so many references in a lot of the costumes, like for example, Gyro in his Executioner outfit, or the fact that you can play as Giorno with the actual black hair. There's so much to discover in this game that honestly, I would just say, even if you don't care about getting the Platinum Trophy, as a JoJo's fan, I would definitely recommend buying this because you can hop into free battles or maybe get someone to play with online and just truly have so much fun exploring all of the content this game has to offer. And through all these free battles, we do get several trophies. One of them specifically is for doing flash cancels, which, like I mentioned previously, the combo system in this game is really not that advanced, but one thing I learned by getting this trophy is that in the midway through doing your combo, you can press both triggers and you essentially cancel out your own combo, allowing you to extend it. Now, you can only do this so long and eventually the enemy will still fall down and have like 20 seconds of invincibility, but it's at least something. After finishing up a few free play battles, I then had to go back into story mode, and this is when I realized I was cooked, because I was so worried about finishing the story as quick as I can that I now have to go back into the story mode and replay every single mission to get an S rank, and then have some additional missions on top of that, which are basically side quests that I'll have to also get S ranks for. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, this somewhat plays like an RPG, so by this point, you're basically max leveled. And so if anybody's going for this, what I would recommend, just play Jojo, spam the Aura attack, and by the time you're fully maxed out on the level, you're gonna have enough damage buff and things like that to where every mission is a cakewalk and you can just defeat the enemy super quickly. But man, was this tedious. Another thing I missed out on is after you defeat Shigechi in part 4, his stand gets introduced into the worlds that you're able to run around, and for one of the trophies you're gonna have to collect it 50 times. Basically, as you run around, they'll try and run away from you, and as you capture them, they give you little stickers which just give you little points and things like that to spend in the item shop. This was just very annoying, and I wish I would have done it the first time I was playing through the story, but it is what it is. But I'm not done yet, because then I also have to complete 10 revenge battles, which are basically secret missions that pop up as you're running around the worlds as well. All I can say is this was so tedious, and I wish I would have just done this when I was first playing through, but it is what it is. But honestly, just knowing that I was creating this video for you guys is what kept me going, so maybe that deserves a like or a subscribe, hopefully. And before we clean up our last few trophies, I decided to take on the final boss of this game, a boss so hard it's harder than beating Elden Ring without getting hit a single time, and that's to complete the online trophies, because this game is absolutely dead. Now, I know a lot of people will just go on Reddit or Discord and ask people to play with them, but for some reason, I decided not to do that just because I have no friends. So I decided to do it the hard way and the authentic way, and that's just to randomly queue for matches and hope somebody joins. Really, all that I can say about this experience is you will be waiting a lot. I mean, basically, all that you're doing is waiting, so you might as well just watch some YouTube videos, maybe some of Otaking's YouTube videos. I heard he's a pretty good YouTube channel, but eventually, sometimes you do get matches with people. And I gotta say, the feeling when you actually see that you're queuing up with someone almost feels like you've discovered the Holy Grail. It's a great feeling. But I will say another thing, and that's that the online matches in this game are absolutely horrendous. I don't know if it's just that my internet is absolutely trash, which I don't think it's that bad, or maybe it's just because they have almost no service for this game. I don't know the logistics about it, but every single online match you will play in this game, you're going to be running at like 10 FPS and have the worst connection ever. I mean, for example, this part, the connection is so bad that the audio can't even catch up with how bad it's lagging. And it's truly a shame, because as much as I enjoy playing this game, you would think that you can just enjoy playing online mode, but with it lagging so bad, this just felt like a tedious grind, and it was not fun at all to get these trophies. It's such a shame that this game has a dead online mode, because I truly love this game so much. But we suffered through this, and unfortunately I realized as I got both of these trophies that my capture card was not recording, but here's proof that I did get them, and then we can now clean up the last few trophies and get our platinum trophy. I ended off this journey I had with heading into the item shop and just going on a spending spree and just buying everything I can. And like I mentioned, there's actually really cool things to buy. All of the costumes and special just voice lines and things like that. They truly packed in so much JoJo's content into this one game. So we get all of our trophies for that, and then we also get another trophy for having finished 50 JoJo Lady conditions. If you're looking to get this trophy yourself, what I would recommend is just to go in free play mode, and each time you play a match, play a different character. You'll naturally gain these JoJo Lady missions as you just play a match with the character, and as you play about 20 or so characters, this trophy should just naturally pop for you. And with our final trophy, we get the tacos trophy, which reminds me that this video is going to be sponsored by... I'm just joking. I'm not going to sponsor that one food brand that every YouTuber does. I don't want like sponsors and things like that. I'm not going to bore you with that. We get the tacos trophy, which basically you have to complete all dramatic finishes. And this one specifically on the Joestar Mansion was really hard for me to get. Another tip if you're looking to get this one is to play as Jojo and to freeze time in this exact position. That way your opponent is stuck here and you can hit them with a dual heat attack. And once you kill them using that, you'll trigger the dynamic finish. And with that, we not only get the tacos trophy, but we also get the platinum trophy for JoJo's Bizzare Adventure Eyes of Heaven. Overall, really all that I can say about this game is if you're a JoJo's fan, you would 100% enjoy this game. Is it worth the $60 price tag? That's definitely up to you. Hopefully it goes on a sale, or I do know even if you have a US region PS5 or PS4, you can buy the UK region physical disc and it may be cheaper that way. But I do truly think that this is one of the most slept on anime games, and it was so much fun to play and revisit this game. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed coming along in this journey with me. And if you enjoy any sort of JoJo's content, a subscribe would definitely help, as I'll continue to be making videos focused around JoJo's Bizzare Adventure. Thank you for watching.